Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, you're in for an absolute treat today. Have you ever stood at the edge of something so magnificent, so overwhelmingly beautiful, that it literally took your breath away? That moment when nature reminds you just how small we are in this vast, incredible world. From the heart of the Australian outback to the frozen depths of Siberia, from ancient fairy tale landscapes in Turkey to thundering waterfalls that straddle two nations, we're going to explore places that have been millions of years in the making. These aren't just tourist destinations, folks. These are living testimonies to the raw power and artistic genius of Mother Nature herself. Each location we'll visit today tells a story that spans geological epochs, human civilizations, and cultural transformations that have shaped the world as we know it. We are talking about places where ancient peoples carved their histories into stone, where volcanic forces sculpted landscapes that defy imagination, where waters have crashed and carved for millennia, and where ecosystems thrive in the most extreme conditions on Earth. These destinations aren't just beautiful, they're transformative. They change the way you see the world and your place in it. So here's my question for you. What would it feel like to stand on land that's been sacred for over 30,000 years, or to gaze into the deepest lake on Earth? Think about it and drop your answer in the comments below. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because you don't want to miss out on any of our awesome travel content. If you're ready to make those dreams come true, check out the links in the description below for deals on flights and accommodations. Now join me as we explore some of the world's most exotic and hidden destinations. Uluru, Ayers Rock, Australia. Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock. Picture this: you're standing in the middle of the Australian outback, and rising from the flat, red desert like an ancient cathedral is a massive sandstone monolith that glows like burning ember at sunrise and sunset. We're talking about a rock formation that's 1,142 feet high and stretches over 2 miles long. But here's the thing, what you see above ground is just the tip of the iceberg. This magnificent giant extends another 1.5 miles below the surface. Uluru sits right in the heart of the Northern Territory, about 280 miles southwest of Alice Springs, smack in the middle of what we call the Red Center. This region is characterized by its distinctive red sand, sparse vegetation, and extreme temperatures that can swing from scorching days to freezing nights. The rock itself is made of arkose, a coarse-grained sandstone rich in feldspar, and it's estimated to be around 550 million years old. Can you even wrap your mind around that number? Uluru isn't just a rock, it's the beating heart of the Anangu people, the traditional Aboriginal owners of this land. For over 30,000 years, yes, you heard that right, 30,000 years, the Anangu have lived in this harsh environment, developing one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. To them, Uluru isn't just sacred, it's a living cultural landscape where every cave, every waterhole, every weathered surface tells a story from the Tijukurpa, their creation period. The rock is covered with ancient petroglyphs and cave paintings that document ceremonies, hunting practices, and the journeys of their ancestral beings. The Anangu believe that powerful spirits still live in Uluru, and many of the sites around the base are so sacred that they're off-limits to visitors and even photography. In 1985, the Australian government officially handed back the title to the Anangu people, and in 2019, after years of requests from the traditional owners, climbing Uluru was finally banned, a decision that honored the cultural significance and spiritual importance of this site. European explorer William Gosse was the first white person to document the rock in 1873, naming it Ayers Rock after the chief secretary of South Australia at the time. But that name never captured the true essence of this place. In 1993, the site was officially dual-named Uluru/Ayers Rock, with Uluru taking precedence, a small but significant step in recognizing indigenous heritage. What makes Uluru truly mesmerizing is its ability to change colors throughout the day. At dawn, it glows soft pink and orange. At midday, it burns a rusty red. And at sunset, it transforms through a spectacular palette of reds, oranges, and purples before turning dark blue as night falls. This isn't just a trick of the light, it's the iron in the rock oxidizing and reflecting different wavelengths of sunlight at various angles. The surrounding Uluru-Kata Tijuta National Park is home to over 400 plant species and numerous animals perfectly adapted to the desert, including red kangaroos, dingoes, and over 170 species of birds. Uluru is far more than just a big rock in the desert. It's a 550-million-year-old geological marvel, a 30,000-year-old sacred site, and a living testament to the resilience and wisdom of the Anangu people. It's a place where you can witness the most spectacular natural light show on Earth while walking in the footsteps of one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. When you visit, remember, you're not just a tourist. You're a guest on sacred land with stories older than most civilizations. Lake Baikal, Russia. Russia, where nature has created something absolutely mind-blowing, Lake Baikal. We're talking about the deepest lake on planet Earth, reaching depths of 5,387 feet. But that's not all. Lake Baikal is also the oldest lake in the world at approximately 25-30 million years old, and it contains about 20% of the world's unfrozen fresh water. Let that sink in for a moment, one lake holding 1/5 of all the fresh water on Earth. Lake Baikal stretches like a crescent moon across southern Siberia, near the border with Mongolia, spanning an incredible 395 miles in length and up to 49 miles in width. It's cradled by mountain ranges on all sides, the Baikal Mountains to the northwest and the Barguzin Range to the northeast, creating a dramatic landscape of steep cliffs, pristine forests, and over 30 islands dotting its surface. The largest of these islands, Olkhon Island, is considered one of the most sacred places in Siberian shamanism. The lake sits in a rift valley created by tectonic plates pulling apart, and it's still growing by about an inch every year. Now here's where things get really fascinating from a cultural and historical perspective. The indigenous Buryat people have lived around Lake Baikal for centuries, and they consider it sacred. They call it the sacred sea or spirit water. According to Buryat legend, Lake Baikal is the home of powerful spirits, and the most revered site is Shaman Rock on Olkhon Island, where ancient shamans performed rituals and communicated with the spirit world. Even today, you'll see colorful prayer flags and offerings left at sacred sites around the lake. The first Russian explorers reached Lake Baikal in the 1640s during the expansion of the Russian Empire across Siberia. The region quickly became an important part of the fur trade route, and later, the Trans-Siberian Railway, completed in 1904, passed near the lake's southern tip, making this remote wonder more accessible to the world. The railway brought settlers, industries, and unfortunately, pollution threats that continue to this day. In 1996, UNESCO designated Lake Baikal a World Heritage Site, recognizing both its unique ecosystem and its cultural importance. What makes Lake Baikal absolutely extraordinary is its biodiversity. Because it's so ancient and isolated, evolution has created a unique ecosystem here. About 80% of the species found in Lake Baikal exist nowhere else on Earth. We're talking about the world's only freshwater seal, the adorable Baikal seal or Nerpa, which evolved from ocean-dwelling ancestors. There's also the Golomyanka, a translucent fish that's so fatty it can literally melt if exposed to heat. The lake's water is so clear and pure that in some places you can see down to depths of 130 feet. In winter, Lake Baikal transforms into something otherworldly. The surface freezes into ice, so clear you can see straight through to the depths below. The ice forms spectacular patterns of cracks and pressure ridges, creating turquoise ice caves and formations that look like something from another planet. This ice is so thick, up to 6 feet in some places, that cars and even trucks can drive across it. But here's a word of caution. Climate change is affecting the lake's freeze patterns, making ice travel increasingly dangerous. Lake Baikal is not just the deepest, oldest, and most voluminous freshwater lake on Earth. It's a living laboratory of evolution, a sacred site for indigenous peoples, and a fragile ecosystem facing modern environmental challenges. When you stand on its shores or gaze into its crystal-clear depths, you're looking at water that's been accumulating for millions of years and life forms that exist nowhere else in the universe. It's a humbling reminder of Earth's incredible capacity for creation and the importance of preservation. Cappadocia's fairy chimneys, Turkey. Welcome to Cappadocia, Turkey, home to the famous fairy chimneys, rock formations so bizarre and beautiful that when you first see them, you'll genuinely question whether you're still on Earth or somehow transporting to an alien planet. These towering stone spires, mushroom-shaped rocks, and whimsical geological formations create a landscape that has to be seen to be believed. Cappadocia is located in central Turkey, in the heart of Anatolia, primarily covering the provinces of Nevşehir, Kayseri, Aksaray, and Nigd. The region sits on a high plateau over 3,000 feet above sea level, surrounded by mountains including the massive extinct volcanoes Mount Erciyes and Mount Hassan. Now here's where the magic begins. Millions of years ago, these volcanoes erupted, covering the land with thick layers of volcanic ash and lava. Over time, this ash compressed into a soft rock called tuff, topped with harder basalt in some areas. Then wind, rain, and frost went to work like nature's sculptors, eroding the soft rock while leaving the harder caps on top, creating those iconic mushroom-shaped, fairy chimneys that can tower up to 130 feet high. The geology is fascinating, but the human history here is absolutely mind-blowing. The story of Cappadocia's human habitation goes back to the Bronze Age, around 3000 BCE. But the real transformation began with the Hittites, then continued through the Phrygians, Persians, Romans, and Byzantines. Here's the incredible part. People didn't just live around these rocks, they lived inside them. Starting as early as the 4th century CE, Christians fleeing Roman persecution carved entire cities into the soft volcanic rock. We're not talking about a few caves, we're talking about multi-level underground cities that could house thousands of people, complete with living quarters, kitchens, wine cellars, churches, schools, and even ventilation systems. The most famous of these is Kuyu, an underground city that goes down at least 8 levels deep, reaching depths of 280 feet, with tunnels connecting to other underground cities. Can you imagine the engineering genius required to create this without modern technology? These underground cities provided refuge during Arab-Byzantine wars and later during raids by various invaders. The Christians of Cappadocia also carved hundreds of rock-cut churches into the fairy chimneys and cliff faces, decorating them with stunning Byzantine frescoes that still survive today. The Gurim Open-Air Museum alone contains over 30 rock-carved churches from the 10th, 11th, and 12th centuries, with frescoes depicting biblical scenes in vibrant colors. The Silk Road passed through Cappadocia, bringing traders, cultures, and ideas from east and west. This made the region a melting pot of civilizations. The Turkish name, Cappadocia, comes from the ancient Persian name, Cappadocia, meaning land of beautiful horses. The region was famous for breeding exceptional horses that were prized throughout the ancient world. Fast forward to today, and Cappadocia has become one of the most photographed destinations on Earth, particularly famous for the hundreds of hot air balloons that float over the fairy chimneys at sunrise, creating what might be the most magical morning spectacle you'll ever witness. The valleys, Love Valley, Rose Valley, Red Valley, and Pigeon Valley, each have their own character and color palette, ranging from pink and red to white and gold, depending on the minerals in the rock. Cappadocia's fairy chimneys represent one of the most unique collaborations between geological forces and human ingenuity on Earth. Volcanic eruptions gave birth to the landscape, erosion sculpted it into fantastical forms, and humans transformed it into underground refuge cities and sacred spaces that protected and inspired civilizations for millennia. When you walk through these valleys, you're literally walking through both geological time and human history, from volcanic eruptions millions of years ago to Bronze Age settlements to early Christian sanctuaries. It's a place where nature's art gallery meets humanity's determination to survive and create beauty, even in the most challenging environments. Niagara Falls, USA and Canada. We are heading to one of the most powerful and iconic natural wonders on the planet, Niagara Falls. Close your eyes for a second and imagine this: 750,000 gallons of water, that's roughly 3 million liters, crashing over a cliff every single second. The roar is deafening, the mist is everywhere, and the sheer power of it all makes you feel incredibly small and wonderfully alive. This isn't just one waterfall, folks. It's actually three separate falls, and together they create one of the most spectacular shows nature has ever produced. Niagara Falls sits on the border between Ontario, Canada, and New York State in the USA, about halfway along the Niagara River, which connects Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. The falls are actually made up of three distinct waterfalls: the Horseshoe Falls, also called the Canadian Falls, which is the largest and most powerful, the American Falls, and the smaller Bridal Veil Falls. The Horseshoe Falls measures about 2,600 feet wide and drops approximately 188 feet. That's like a 20-story building. The American Falls is about 1,060 feet wide with a drop of 110 feet. The Niagara Gorge, carved by the falls as they've slowly eroded upstream over thousands of years, is a stunning canyon with walls up to 200 feet high. The name Niagara comes from the indigenous Iroquoian word Onguiara, which means the strait, or according to some interpretations, thundering water or bisected bottom lands. The indigenous peoples of the area, primarily the Neutral Nation, the Seneca, and other Haudenosaunee Iroquois groups, have lived near and revered these falls for thousands of years. To them, the falls were a spiritual place, home to the thunder god Hinu, who lived in a cave behind the Horseshoe Falls. European discovery came in 1678, when French priest Louis Hennepin became the first European to document Niagara Falls in writing. His descriptions captivated Europe's imagination and started drawing explorers, missionaries, and eventually tourists. By the early 19th century, the falls had become one of the first major tourist attractions in North America. But with tourism came exploitation. Mills, factories, and tourist developments began to crowd the falls, threatening to destroy their natural beauty. This led to a groundbreaking conservation movement. In 1885, after years of advocacy by landscape designers and conservationists, including Frederick Law Olmsted, Niagara Falls became one of the first state parks in the United States and the first state park created specifically to preserve natural scenery. Canada followed suit, creating Queen Victoria Park in 1888. This was revolutionary. The idea that nature needed to be protected from commercial exploitation was still radical at the time. Niagara Falls has been a magnet for daredevils and adventurers. In 1901, Annie Edson Taylor became the first person to survive going over the falls in a barrel. She was 63 years old. Since then, numerous people have attempted the feat with varying degrees of success. The falls have also been a major source of hydroelectric power since the 1890s, generating clean energy for millions, while preservationists work to ensure the falls' beauty remained intact. What many people don't know is that the falls are constantly changing and moving. The erosion process means the falls are slowly creeping upstream at a rate of about 1 foot per year, though that rate has slowed thanks to flow control and erosion prevention measures. 10,000 years ago, the falls were actually 7 miles downstream at Queenston, Lewiston. At night, the falls are illuminated with colorful lights, and during winter, the mist freezes into incredible ice formations, creating a winter wonderland. Niagara Falls represents raw, unbridled natural power, tamed just enough by human engineering to be accessible while remaining wild and breathtaking. It's a place where indigenous spirituality, pioneering conservation efforts, hydroelectric innovation, and tourism collide in spectacular fashion. When you stand at the rail with mist soaking your face and the thunder of falling water vibrating through your bones, you're experiencing the same awe that humans have felt for thousands of years. It's a reminder that some forces of nature are so magnificent they can unite nations in preservation and inspire generations to protect and cherish the natural world. Torres del Paine National Park, Chile. We're talking about Torres del Paine National Park in Chile, located in the remote and rugged region of Patagonia. If you're looking for a place that defines the word dramatic, this is it. Picture massive granite towers shooting up from the earth like ancient skyscrapers, turquoise lakes fed by glaciers, emerald green forests, and winds so powerful they can literally knock you off your feet. This is nature on an epic, almost cinematic scale, the kind of place that makes you understand why early explorers wrote about Patagonia with such wonder and terror. Torres del Paine National Park is located in southern Chilean Patagonia, in the Magallanes region, about 71 miles north of Puerto Natales and roughly 194 miles north of Punta Arenas. The park covers an incredible 700 square miles of diverse terrain, ranging from 164 feet to over 9,800 feet in elevation. The park's centerpiece and namesake, the Torres del Paine, or Towers of Paine, are 3 distinctive granite peaks that rise dramatically about 8,200 feet above sea level. The name Paine comes from the indigenous Tehuelche word for blue, likely referring to the blue color of the glacial lakes. The landscape here is a geological masterpiece. The Torres themselves are part of the Paine Massif, formed around 12 million years ago when magma pushed up through the Earth's crust but cooled before reaching the surface, creating the granite intrusions we see today. Later, the softer surrounding rock eroded away, leaving these spectacular towers exposed. The park also contains the Cuernos del Paine, Horns of Paine, mountains with distinctive dark sedimentary rock caps over lighter granite bases. Glaciers carved U-shaped valleys throughout the region, and you can still see massive glaciers like Grey Glacier, part of the southern Patagonian ice field, the third largest ice field in the world after Antarctica and Greenland. Now let's talk about the human history of this wild place. For thousands of years, this region was home to indigenous peoples including the Tehuelche, Ayanaikan, and Kawaiska peoples, who were nomadic hunters and gatherers incredibly adapted to Patagonia's harsh conditions. They hunted guanacos, wild relatives of llamas, gathered plants, and moved seasonally following game. These peoples had rich mythologies about the landscape, viewing the mountains and lakes as spiritual entities. European exploration of Patagonia began in the 1520s when Ferdinand Magellan sailed through the strait that now bears his name, but the interior remained largely unexplored for centuries. The first documented European to explore the area of Torres del Paine was Lady Florence Dixie, a British aristocrat and adventurer who visited in 1879 and wrote glowingly about the towers, helping put the region on the map. In the early 20th century, the area was used for sheep ranching. You can still see the ruins of estancias, ranches, within the park. The transformation from working ranch land to protected wilderness began in 1959 when Torres del Paine was designated a national park, initially covering just the mountain area. It was expanded to its current size in 1962 and declared a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 1978. This protection came just in time. The park preserves one of the last relatively intact ecosystems in Patagonia, home to endangered species like the South Andean huemul deer and the Andean condor with its 10-foot wingspan. Today, Torres del Paine is one of the most famous trekking destinations in the world, with the W Trek and the circuit attracting hikers from across the globe. The park showcases incredible biodiversity despite the harsh climate. Think pumas, guanacos, foxes, and over 100 bird species. The weather is famously unpredictable and brutal. You can experience all 4 seasons in a single day, and the Patagonian winds are legendary, sometimes exceeding 100 mph. Torres del Paine National Park is where geology, climate, and evolution have collaborated to create one of the most spectacular and challenging landscapes on Earth. It's a place where ancient granite towers stand as monuments to deep time, where glaciers continue their slow sculpture work, and where wildlife has adapted to some of the planet's most extreme conditions. When you trek through this park, you're walking through a landscape that indigenous peoples navigated for millennia, that early explorers found both terrifying and beautiful, and that now stands protected as one of South America's greatest natural treasures. It's raw, wild Patagonia at its most magnificent, a place that demands respect, preparation, and rewards those willing to brave its elements with some of the most unforgettable scenery on the planet. Yellowstone National Park, USA. Yellowstone National Park, America's first national park, and quite possibly the most geologically active place you can safely visit on Earth. We're talking about a supervolcano. Yes, you heard that right, a supervolcano that sits beneath a landscape of spouting geysers, bubbling mud pots, prismatic hot springs, thundering waterfalls, and enough wildlife to make you feel like you've stepped back into the Ice Age. This isn't just a park, it's literally a window into the Earth's interior. Yellowstone National Park sprawls across 3,472 square miles. That's larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined, primarily in Wyoming, but also extending into Montana and Idaho. The park sits atop the Yellowstone Plateau at elevations mostly between 7,000 and 8,000 feet, surrounded by mountain ranges including the Absarokas to the east, the Gallatin Range to the northwest, and the Tetons to the south. The park is essentially sitting on top of a massive magma chamber, part of the Yellowstone caldera, which is roughly 34 by 45 miles wide, one of the largest active volcanic systems in the world. Here's the geological reality that makes Yellowstone so incredibly special. Beneath this beautiful wilderness lies a hotspot in the Earth's mantle where superheated rock pushes up toward the surface. This hotspot has caused 3 massive supereruptions over the past 2.1 million years. The most recent was 640,000 years ago, which created the current caldera. Don't worry, scientists are constantly monitoring it, and there's no indication of an imminent eruption. But this volcanic activity is what powers Yellowstone's 10,000 hydrothermal features, more than anywhere else on Earth. That includes roughly 500 geysers, which is about 2/3 of all the geysers in the entire world. Old Faithful, the park's most famous geyser, erupts approximately every 90 minutes, shooting 3,700 to 8,400 gallons of boiling water up to 180 feet in the air. Archaeological evidence shows that humans have inhabited the Yellowstone region for at least 11,000 years. Various Native American tribes, including the Shoshone, Crow, Blackfeet, and Bannock, used the area for hunting, fishing, gathering plants, and obtaining obsidian, volcanic glass perfect for making tools and weapons. They had names for the geothermal features and spiritual beliefs about the steaming earth and hot waters. European Americans didn't believe the first reports about Yellowstone from fur trappers and mountain men in the early 1800s. Stories of spouting water, boiling rivers, and petrified trees seemed too fantastical. But the 1870 Washburn-Langford-Doane expedition documented the wonders, and the 1871 Hayden Geological Survey, with photographer William Henry Jackson and artist Thomas Moran, provided proof that captured the nation's imagination. This led to a revolutionary moment in conservation history. On March 1, 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Yellowstone National Park Protection Act, creating the world's first national park, a completely new concept that land could be set aside purely for preservation and public enjoyment, not for extraction or profit. This was the birth of the national park idea that spread around the world. Yellowstone is home to one of the most intact temperate ecosystems on Earth. The park hosts 67 mammal species, including the largest free-roaming bison herd in the United States, around 5,000 animals. Wolves reintroduced in 1995 after 70 years of absence, grizzly bears, elk, moose, and pronghorn antelope. Yellowstone Lake is the largest high-elevation lake in North America. The Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone features spectacular waterfalls, including the 308-foot Lower Falls, and the park contains the world's largest concentration of petrified trees. Yellowstone National Park represents a perfect storm of geological wonders, ecological richness, and pioneering conservation vision. It's a place where you can witness the Earth's interior workings through geysers and hot springs, see megafauna that once roamed across North America, and walk in a landscape protected by the world's first national park. When you visit Yellowstone, you're not just seeing spectacular scenery, you're experiencing the place that taught humanity that some lands are too precious to develop, that nature has intrinsic value worth protecting, and that wilderness can be preserved for future generations. It's the birthplace of a global conservation movement and remains a laboratory for understanding volcanic processes, ecosystem dynamics, and the complex relationships between geology, climate, wildlife, and humans. We've just traveled around the globe together, haven't we? From the sacred red heart of Australia to the frozen depths of Siberia, from fairy tale landscapes in Turkey to the thundering waters between two nations, from the wild winds of Patagonia to the geothermal wonders of America's first national park. 6 incredible destinations, 6 unique stories, and 6 powerful reminders of why our planet is so extraordinarily precious. These natural wonders teach us something profound about perspective and humility. When you stand before Uluru's ancient stone, gaze into Lake Baikal's depths, walk among Cappadocia's fairy chimneys, feel Niagara's mist, trek through Torres del Paine's valleys, or watch Old Faithful erupt, you realize that we're just small chapters in a much larger story. These places have existed for millions of years and will continue long after we're gone. That should inspire us not to despair, but to be better stewards, to protect what we can, and to approach nature with respect and wonder. Now here's my question for you. Which of these 6 natural wonders called to your soul the most? Which one are you adding to your bucket list? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this journey with me today, smash that subscribe button. We've got so many more adventures planned, so many more stories to tell, and so many more wonders to explore together. Hit the notification bell too, so you never miss an episode. Your next great adventure is just one video away.